Welcome back to another Shit Talk Fridays. I'm Gina.
And I'm Evo.
And tonight, we're actually not drinking because we definitely had enough of that over the holiday.
We was definitely being thankful, for sure.
Yeah.
For the food and the alcohol.
Yeah, so I just got a cup of water. And I hope everyone out there had a wonderful Thanksgiving, got to spend time with family and friends, because I know that we did. And I'm definitely very thankful for that.
And even if you didn't get time to spend with family and friends, I still hope that you had a fantastic Thanksgiving, because some people, working or away from home,
Correct. Yeah.
So to everybody, hope you had a great Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I concur. That was me back in the day, working on holidays.
Yeah.
So tonight we have some fun topics for you. And again, these topics come off of social media based on some of the previous videos that we've had. And I love to go into the comments. If you don't know me, you will know that Gina loves to read comments.
Yeah, you live for those comments.
To be honest, sometimes comments actually are more thrilling to me than the actual content that I'm watching. But when it comes to our comments in particular on the posts that we put up, I dive into the comments because I feel like it gives me like a gauge on what people that are consuming our content think about.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to kind of like build conversations off of that, because if people are choosing to consume our content, then I kind of want to give them a little bit of what they're already kind of putting out and talking about.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it makes sense.
I think it would be interesting to continue that conversation. So I saw a video though more recently on social, can't remember which platform, not that I want to plug any of them right now. And it was a interviewer asking, or like a random girl in the street, how long sex should last. And to be honest, I think that the girl was somewhat intoxicated, because she was like, 60 minutes.
God damn.
My immediate reaction was like, 60 minutes? What are we doing for 60 minutes?
I mean, there's a lot you can do for 60 minutes, but I don't think it involves just like straight intercourse,
No. Well, I mean, the act of sex involves foreplay,
right,
intercourse. It's not just like, getting straight to it. I can imagine it lasting maybe a half an hour. I personally consider that to be a good amount of time to be intimate with someone.
Mm-hmm.
And not to say that it can't go a little longer, but I was definitely surprised at the 60-minute thing. And then the guy was just like, the person that was interviewing her was like, okay. Because I think he himself was like, that seems a little extreme. So then that got me thinking, how long should sex last?
Great question.
And I think that you and I have come to the conclusion that it definitely varies based on age.
Yes.
Based on your physicality.
Yes.
And I think it also like depends on where and when.
And your psychological state of being. Like, so where you are psychologically, and where you are physically is what some of the research showed.
Okay. So give me an example of like what you mean by psychologically.
Well, I mean, if you're the type of person that is, a little timid, not too aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see you performing very long in the bedroom. You know what I mean? It's just, those type of people, like I would think that based on what the research showed. What's funny? You're asking me this question, and I'm like now imagining the type of physical and psychological space you have to be in. But if I had to guess and reflect on myself, I would think it takes a bit of someone with like a strong head on their shoulders to want to like perform, to make it something where like they're actively trying to, last during the act of sex. Like it might be important to them, because I can see, growing up, thinking back, that was kind of like, an ego thing, how long you could last, and people who were a couple minutes were considered quote unquote, weak in the bedroom per se. So I think your psychological frame of mind has definitely something to do with how long you can go. Would you agree?
Yeah, I definitely would agree, especially based off of the sexual experiences I have had with you. I know that there is like a mastery that goes to it, because, real talk, there have been times that we have been intimate, and I know that you are basically withholding from reaching climax so that we can continue for longer periods of time. So I feel like that takes a certain level of psychological strength to
Yeah.
to be honest, I think what you're doing, and maybe this is just like the way that I would explain it, is like you're almost having like an internal conversation.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is a little challenging because you have to keep in mind that two things. One, are you trying to make sure that your partner climaxes before you do?
Mm-hmm.
And two, are you sure that you have everything under control, that you're not going to ejaculate?
Mm-hmm.
So it takes, quite a bit of being in your head
Yeah.
at the same time, while you're trying to enjoy the physical pleasure of it, that, you don't overlook those two things.
I think that is huge.
Yeah,
And
it is.
I think it plays on both ends. I do think it may be a little bit more focus on the man's ability to withhold him climaxing.
Right.
Because I think for women, and I don't want to say I want to say that I know I'm a woman, that we don't reach climax similar to men. There has to be like a different type of stimulation that's happening within like different aspects. Number one, clitoris has to be stimulated in a certain way. And I think a woman, we also look for like the connection with the partner to really like be able to reach that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that personally we are actively mentally like restraining ourselves from reaching climax.
Right.
If anything, I feel like we're doing the opposite. I feel like we're mentally putting ourselves in a space where we are actively trying to reach climax. Because as a woman, I know that in the past, the partner that I may be at one time casually having sex with didn't necessarily know what it took to reach or help me reach climax.
Right.
So I had to mentally be able to put myself in that space where I could then reach climax.
And how long do you think that process generally would take?
Generally, for like a woman, I hate to say this, but I think it definitely does vary.
Mm-hmm.
I think on average, though, based off my own personal experience, because I can't speak for other women in the sense of like the majority, but I do have many female friends, and I would say anywhere from 3 to 10 minutes. Like on a fast note, I can say 3 minutes. If your partner really knows your body, really knows what it takes, and there's times where it's not even really based on the penetration, it could be more so just about how that partner is stimulating you,
Right.
and or the clitoris rather, and 10 minutes I feel like maybe 3 to 7. I don't need 10 minutes. Might even seem kind of long.
So that's a pretty interesting. Now you because you're like in a range from like 3 minutes to now 10 minutes.
Well, I said and then I kind of went back to about 7 because I'm like really trying to think about it.
So there was a survey done in 2005 by Society for Sex Therapy, and according to vaginal and penile sex, right, 1 to 2 minutes is too short.
Yeah, I definitely would agree.
Vaginal sex that lasts anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes is considered too long.
Yeah.
Right? Because, you're talking about straight intercourse for more than 10 to 30, like almost 30 minutes.
Okay.
So therapists that completed the survey said that anywhere from 7 to 13 minutes is desirable.
So I wasn't all...
So, yeah, that's the sweet spot.
Yeah, you see, because I was like, 3... Then I said 10, then I was like, I feel like 7. And listen, Real talk, ladies and gentlemen, I did not look at Evo's notes prior, so I had
Yeah.
no clue that that was a study that you had looked into. We talk about the topics. We kind of have like our own personal discussion, but then we do our own research so that we have banter to go back and forth. I'm pretty proud that I hit that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, you
mean,
did
because
pretty good.
I mean, you and I have been together for quite some time, and we have been able to really build on our sexual experiences with each other. So I'm really able to tap into that and say to myself, okay, that seems like a reasonable number. However, past experiences, I do think that, speaking from a woman's perspective, I have definitely been in situations where men have been trying to perform, and they think that performing means longevity, which means a long time. And as a woman, we're good at withholding orgasm in the sense of like, okay, I can put myself in a particular position where I know I'm not being stimulated through the clitoris, where I'm just not really looking for that. But real talk, like if it's too long, it almost becomes an annoyance because you somewhat become, I want to say, like slightly desensitized.
Yeah.
And it's hard to keep yourself in that mental space. And again, I'm speaking for myself and, some women that I know in my circle. I can't speak for every woman on this earth, but I feel like it's safe to say that that's like typically, I would think that that's typically like, you want to be like more in that sweet spot, like based on what that study said.
Yeah. I mean, growing up, when you hear the term 30, 40, sex for an hour, you're very naive about knowing or realizing that sex is more than just intercourse.
Correct.
And so you get caught up in that, it has to be like penetration for 30 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
And you get caught up in that idea, and that's like kind of the target that males try to hit, when they're first starting to learn about sex. And it's like that physical penetration portion of it that they try to draw out to be a very long time. And come to realize it's actually a plethora of things that you incorporate into the act of sex, which is, physical foreplay. It could be role playing, even talking prior towards, setting the mood mentally.
Yeah.
All of these things lead up to an anticipation, the climax, especially for the woman.
Yeah.
That by the time the actual act of sex comes, where there's the actual penetration, you couple that with having a great conversation and maybe some physical touching, massaging, things of that nature, maybe jumping into a little bit of role playing, and then jumping into like a good 3 to 7 minutes of some sex. I can see that lasting about an hour 20 minutes.
Growing up, wasn't the saying 7 minutes in heaven?
7 minutes in heaven, yeah. But I think that was more like in when you play the game and you go into the closet.
Yeah, I know, but you're already, that number's kind of already been put in your mind, like.
Oh shit! I never realized that.
You're being pre-programmed. Like 7 minutes is like the way to heaven.
Yeah. So for some of you, you younger bucks out there, just know that, going an hour with sex, that is definitely something that's achievable, but don't feel like it has to be all penetration, because you're setting yourself up for failure. I mean, somebody's gonna get hurt if you're doing an hour of just straight penetration. I mean, somebody's gonna wake up sore the next day for sure.
The fact that you said somebody's gonna get hurt.
Somebody's gonna get hurt real bad. Who's that? Who's the comic? I don't even want.
Russell Peters. Yeah.
That dude was funny. I used to enjoy his skits.
You know what's interesting to me though, what you said about how young men start to learn about sex. One of the things that I just said the other day, we were watching a movie on Netflix and there was a sex scene, and the way that the man interacted with the woman was just like, baby, I love you, kissed her for about 3.5 seconds, and then like put her in a position and started having sex with her. And I literally looked at you and I went, yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when in Hollywood they got to speed things up a bit. You know, you got to, you know, I guess that's just the way that it is.
But I think you're missing my
Right,
point.
it sets a false pretense.
Well, it sets a false pretense in the narrative of that the man is able to immediately move to sex without that level of foreplay. So maybe men are then already given the false pretense that penetration is the way to satisfy a woman in the bedroom. So then they find themselves wanting to do it for a longer period of time.
Right.
Because, well, where do you really learn about this kind of stuff? I mean, let's be real. You're not learning about this shit in school through sex ed. You're learning like the fuck about the birds and the bees. And then you have pornography. And there is small amounts of actual like romantic lovemaking pornography. And I'm not going to play shy and act like I've never seen porn. As a woman, personally, when I do search porn, I do look for the more like sensual, more romantic, because I prefer to see something that looks more realistic.
Right.
Something that looks more like what two people in a long-term relationship, whether it be casual or like, you know, marriage or a long-term boyfriend and girlfriend, are looking to achieve. I wish that outlet was provided to young men and to young women early on in their, I guess maybe like older teenage years when they start entering into the world of sex. Because then there wouldn't be that like, oh, I have to ram this chick for 30 minutes. They would have like a better idea of what potentially it takes to make sex longer. And it doesn't have to be all the time. But I think a lot of young boys and girls are watching these, you know, porn films or shorts, whatever you want to call them. And it's maybe like a couple seconds of some sort of foreplay, but it's usually driven towards the man. And then it's just like the man, you know, doing what he has to do with the woman. So then what winds up happening is that the men think that that's what they have to do, the young men, and then the women think that they have to be like on the pleasing end of that. Like they have to satisfy the man in that factor.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you gotta know that a lot of these scenes, they're filmed in a way where they're geared towards men's sexual fantasies, you know, and pleasing the man.
Yeah.
You know, so when you have, you know, boys and men growing up watching that, that's like, it's engraved in how, you know, the way that they think sex is supposed to play out. And you have girls also seeing that and thinking that's what men like, and they have to kind of be submissive to that. So it's a big old fuckery of shit, misinformation about what's really supposed to happen.
Yeah.
You know, and not to say that these things, you know, shouldn't happen and that these fantasies shouldn't play out, because, you know, they can be fun.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm not saying that.
But to say that that's the way that it is.
Yeah.
You know, is a false statement. You know, like you're setting yourself up for failure if you think that, you know, that's the way every act is supposed to happen.
Well, what's interesting is that on one of our last posts, I talked about, or well, rather, we had a conversations about reasons that you may need to go into therapy. And one of them that we touched on was if there is, you know, sexual intimacy happening between you and your partner. And when that is happening, that may be a sign that you and your partner may need to enter into therapy. And then I continued on by saying that there are times that two partners are not being intimate because one of the partners is not receiving the pleasure that they should be receiving.
Right.
And someone commented on that video that we posted and said, and it was a man, said, if I'm treating her well and paying for everything, she could fucking kick rocks. And that to me speaks directly to what we're talking about, is that young men are basically just like, well, if I'm the man, I'm going to get what I want. And that's exactly what I said, that they're self-indulgent. They're just like, they're in it for themselves.
They're in it for themselves. And, you know, and I feel like that, excuse me, not realizing that knowing how to please a woman just makes you more dominant in the bedroom. You know, and I feel like that possibly the lack of being able to and then being told that you're not doing it properly is a shot at the ego.
Yeah.
And it's almost like very easy for a person to get defensive. But I will say this, you know, males they're not shy to tell a girl that they need to finish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because, you know, males have that desire, that urge to need to ejaculate.
Yeah.
And if for whatever reason, let's say you have two people engaging in, you know, physical kissing and touching and things like that, and for whatever reason that, you know, it stops and the girl decides to stop it, the male is going to be pretty forward about like, hey, like, I need to finish. You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh, what's the saying? Don't leave me with blue balls.
Don't leave me with blue balls. You know, I don't want to say that it's a thing. I guess I just been fortunate never to experience it.
It is a thing.
Yeah, I mean, but to me, it's always been a myth because I've never experienced it. Right? Like, I just feel like.
What do you mean you've never experienced? Like,
I've never experienced blue balls. I've never.
I don't think it's like an actual thing per se. I don't think like your balls turn blue.
No.
But I think it's like it's that feeling of not reaching climax and feeling
it's
that
supposed to be painful, from what I understand.
Well, I'm just saying that I don't think your balls turn blue. So
No.
you're saying that you've never experienced this supposed painful thing of not being able to ejaculate?
Anytime I was ever in a situation and for whatever reason it stopped, it stopped. Like, that buck stopped there. Like, I wasn't that guy to say like, come on, girl, like, you can't leave me like this, you know. And like, you know, some people, you know, people get aggressive, you know, or, you know, guys will get a little bit of aggressive, you know. They'll be very straightforward about like, you know, you need to do something, you know, like, if we're not going to have sex, then you need to either go down on me or, you know, jerk me off or something, you know. Like, I just feel like that they're very forward about them finishing. And I feel like that there should be a way for girls to be able to do the same thing, you know. And I feel like that communication back to guys will teach them more about pleasing a girl. You know, I mean, I feel like there's a lesson to be learned there, you know, an opportunity, you know, for girls not to have to always be like, so, you know, with hush about, you know, the way they feel and just, you know, indulging in the guy's fantasy. So I just thought it would be interesting to point that out, that, you know, in a situation where a guy doesn't climax, he will make sure or try very hard to communicate that to the person that he's, you know, being intimate with, that he didn't finish and that he needs to. And I feel like that, you know, in a situation where a guy and a girl may be having sex and the guy finishes, that the girl might not say nothing about her finishing. Might not, you know, maybe, you know, but there may be also be the situation where she never has climaxed, you know, so she doesn't know what it is to finish, you know, because there are girls that go through that where they're still learning about their bodies and things like that, you know, and they don't know that there's, you know, about having an orgasm. But for the ones that do, I think it's important for them to say, hey, like, what's up, you know, like, and it kind of maybe like, you know, walk the guy through it, you know, in a way where he can learn something. Because obviously I think that when having sex, it's important for both people to climax.
I firmly agree with you. I think the one thing that you're missing, and we kind of spoke about this earlier, is that there's a fear factor there. So when you're in a situation with a man sexually, and let's say it's casual, let's say you haven't been with this man many times, maybe this is the first time, maybe this is the second time, and you don't reach climax, and then you turn around and say, hey, I didn't reach climax, there is the possibility that man is going to turn around and tell you to go fuck yourself.
Understood. And you're absolutely right. And
hang on a second. And as a woman, because there is that fear factor, and I'm not saying that that's always the case, because I know that sometimes it just can be that the woman is more timid as far as her vocalizing what it is that she needs. But when there is that fear factor, it's sad for me to even say it, but there are some, you know, women, we live in fear of men. So living in fear of men, and you're in a situation where you're alone with this man, you may just want to walk away from that situation.
I understand what
Sadly.
you're saying. I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you. Okay, but here's the point that I'm trying to make.
Okay.
I'm not saying that in that particular instance it's gonna go that way, but it's the start of an opening to a new conversation, and it needs to start somewhere. So let's just say in that instance, the guy finishes, the girl doesn't. She says something to him. Maybe this is their second time together. And, now she's like, like, hey, I would like to start finishing. She says something to him. Doesn't go well. Guy gets pissed off. But at least now that's out there. It's on the table. So now moving forward, it's either that whole situation is over and it never happens again, which is good for her because obviously she wasn't getting her fair share out of the deal. Or if the guy wants to do it again, he knows that there's an issue that he needs to deal with. So I feel like that at least opens the door to potentially like there's some growth happening.
Yeah.
In that, in that engagement. And so, yeah, is it going to be perfect and peachy? Probably not. But I think that the more that these things happen, the better it's going to turn out for both parties.
I definitely agree with that. I think that there is always an opportunity to learn. You and I have been together for a long time, and I still feel like there are moments where we're still learning about what pleases one another because we're constantly evolving.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we said that at the same time because I feel like people would be like, y'all been married 15 years and you still don't know what your pleases your partner.
Man, people's desires and things change, and you gotta evolve with that.
Yeah, you gotta roll with the punches. So getting back to like things lasting. So it sounds like 7 to 13 minutes.
7 to 13 minutes is like the desirable time for penetration of just constant, nonstop penetration.
Now that doesn't mean, ladies and gentlemen, that you just can't have a quickie.
Yeah, of course. I mean, those are, sometimes you gotta make it quick. You don't have enough time. Even 7 to 13 minutes in a person's busy life is too much. And you have to know how to get in and get out as well. But I think that when you do have the time, that is like the desired amount of time, as far as physical sex.
I will say, though, I know you touched on this earlier about women and, still, or in general, the person still being in that exploration stage of sex. I know for certain that was something that I went through. There was a point in my life where I was in an older teen to my early 20s where I was still really figuring out what was the best way for me to reach climax where it was happening consistently. And initially, when I first started engaging in sex, I didn't know that it was something that, one, I should ask my partner for, or two, I could achieve on my own, or three, direct my partner to help me achieve it. I was somewhat under the impression that orgasm happened through having sex. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I can see how one would like theoretically think that.
So one of the things that I thought about when we were talking about this, like how long things last and like why sometimes girls may not be very well versed in reaching orgasm, is because I don't feel like it's really part of the dynamic of young girls and like when they're being taught, if that even happens, because I was never taught about sex. When conversations are happening, maybe with like a somewhat older family member, maybe like your aunt or like your cousin or whatever it is, that they're vocalizing, well, listen, you can masturbate, or you can. I just don't think that those conversations are happening, even in like a light, jokey manner. But I feel like it happens a lot with young men. I hate to say this, but who doesn't have an uncle that's like, yo, man, you getting your rocks off? You got any bitches? Like I saw that random sock laying around in your room. Like, masturbation and reaching climax for a young man is talked about constantly when they're young and they start to reach that age where they should potentially, I guess, start experiencing sex.
Right.
And for a girl, you and I were talking about this, the focus tends to shift in another direction. Girls are being spoken to about preventing pregnancy and, managing their menstrual cycles. They're not being really spoken about how to reach pleasurable sex or having a voice when they're not receiving that. And I sometimes wonder, like, where and how should those conversations be happening? Because do you feel like mothers should be having those conversations with their daughters, and should fathers be having those conversations with their sons, or whoever is maybe like an elder in your family?
Yeah, I mean, I feel okay. So as far as boys go, or males, the topic of masturbation comes up because it's literally something that just erupts, within an adolescent kid's life. I mean,
No pun intended.
No pun intended. I mean, like, if you're you're a guy, that at some point in your life, you just start getting erections.
Yeah.
And like, it's just part of your body that just stands up erect.
Okay.
And it's excuse me. It's based on hormones, and oh my gosh.
Do you want some of my
Sorry,
water?
yeah. Can I have a sip of that?
Evo didn't bring his own water. This is what happens when you're married.
Oh yes, thank you. That was good. So you have these erections, and they need to be dealt with, and
I'm sorry.
it's just the simplest way of putting it. And you deal with them by ejaculating.
Okay, through masturbation.
Through masturbation. So
like with Pamela.
Pamela Henderson. So this is something that boys have to deal with, and they learn how to deal with it rather quickly. So I feel like, but because that doesn't happen to females, it's not something that's addressed so early in life. I mean, imagine if you and it's hard for me to even give you something that you can really imagine this to, because I don't know what it is to give you the equivalent feeling of what it is to get an erection for a female. But the only thing that I can closely maybe even imagine that it would be like is, when you do reach your parts of the month where you're looking like you're horny, or you're looking to have sex for whatever hormonal phase that you're going through, your sex drive is up. Imagine waking up like that every morning, and imagine that happening to you randomly multiple times throughout the day, where you're just like waterfalls. You wake up in the morning and you're just gushing wet. And then throughout the day, you're in school, and you just, because that's what the boys are dealing with that in school. They're sitting in class, and all of a sudden they're just erection. It'll just stand up randomly out of nowhere. So
when you say out of nowhere, so there's nothing happening in the brain. No. There's no thought process.
Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing. It just. Okay. For whatever hormonal thing is going on in the body, it's causing the penis to erect.
Okay.
And then once it's erect, of course, it's very sensitive, and now you're feeling like almost sexual in a way.
Okay.
Because that hormone is kind of like really on high gear. So that's why masturbation is spoken about to boys at such a young age, because I mean, it's just something that's just relentlessly happening over and over and over and over again.
I totally get that. I would definitely understand how that could be a lead conversation amongst young men.
So I just feel like the equivalent, if that was happening to females, that I feel like it would be spoken about at a younger age, or whenever that was happening, because it's just something that's persistent. You know, we spoke about earlier that there are things that happen, to a female that are beyond their control, like when their body starts to menstruate, and when they start to develop breasts, that become a topic of conversation, if not with their family members or their parents, with siblings or friends. You kind of like need somebody to guide you through this. This is all brand new, and how to deal with that, your own body as a person. Yeah. So masturbation is something that boys have to learn, like, early.
Yeah, I definitely see that now. I think the part of it that I guess aggravates me is the boasting that comes with it. Is how the men then will then start to have conversations that surround sex and a young man's ability to obtain sex. So I think I said earlier, like, everybody got that uncle that's like, how many bitches you got?
Mm-hmm.
You see any girls? Or they make the joke of, or let's say like you're a young man and you're not actively talking about girls, and I say young man, maybe like 16, 17, you're not actively talking about girls, you're not actively bringing girls around, and then you got that family member like, are you gay? Like those type of conversations start to happen where a man's sexuality starts to be kind of pushed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think then what starts to happen is, in defense, if it is happening, they start to have this conversation like, yeah, I got this one, I got that one. And then there's times when if it's not happening, maybe they're lying. Maybe they're just saying that to get people off their fucking back, because the bravado between two men. I think you and I had talked about this on another conversation when we talked about catcalling. And one of the statistics is that like men will catcall amongst other men so that they can assert their dominance.
Mm-hmm.
So a man will potentially show out and say things like, yeah, I got girls, I got this one, I got that one, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, just to show that they are, like an alpha male, that they have like this dominant factor about them. And what I find so interesting about that is because it puts the focus on them being dominant in a sexual way,
Mm-hmm.
versus like them being dominant in their personality.
Right.
And I feel like it's kind of like, listen, there's nothing wrong with joking about that kind of shit. Like, I get it. You may have that cousin that's busting your chops. I get that kind of stuff. But when it's happening constantly amongst, family members, peers, I feel like it can definitely put a stress on a young man to either boast because it's really happening and now he's engaging in multiple partners, or a young man is boasting about it because it's not happening and he's just finding a way to like navigate his way through this like bullshit that men have to go through. Where on the flip side, those type of conversations are not happening with young girls. Those conversations are usually like, don't have a lot of sex,
Mm-hmm.
don't get pregnant, don't have a lot of partners, because then you're going to be labeled a slut and all these type of things. And could you imagine as a young girl watching those conversations happen amongst your family?
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
for example, just, Thanksgiving. A lot of families get together on Thanksgiving and you sit there as a young woman and watch the men in your family joke around about, how many girls you got, you getting them buns or whatever, like that type of shit happens. And I'm able to speak about that kind of conversation because I've heard it. So here you are as a young woman sitting back like, okay, so now, if I talk too much about having sex, I'm a slut. If I'm not managing my sexuality the right way, then I'm going to be judged. But then you got men being taught from a young age, yo, just go out there and talk about it and you're never going to be judged otherwise for it, and it's all good. And there's such this like dichotomy between man and woman in that sector. And I just feel like if you want to grow up and have casual sex, I think it is your right to do so. Do I think that boasting about it in a way where like you're making it seem like you got a fucking scorecard and you are a bigger man because you've had sex with a lot of women, like a good thing? No, I think if you are proud of it because it's educating on you on how to be sexually experienced and how to please a person, I could understand if you're doing it that way. But if you're doing it to be a fucking dickhead, I don't condone that, because I can't tell you how many men I've seen be that type of man and then turn around and point the finger at a woman who is having casual sex just like they are and label them a slut.
Okay. Can I say something? Cause
Sure.
it's quite a bit to unpack there. Like, so, as far as, in reference to what you were saying about, men boasting,
Mm-hmm.
Um. So there is a type of character that you have to be able to talk to a girl, and with words engage in her in a way that is alluring to her, and that will make her allow you to have sex with her.
Okay.
So that takes a bit of skill and swagger, per se. Now, not all men possess.
Oh.
Not all men possess that ability to have that type of swagger, and not all men, boys, even desire to be like that. But the ones that do, pride themselves on having that ability. And as a man, as a boy, you know that there does take some type of finesse. You know, you have to be able to have some type of chemistry with a girl in order to get to that point. So in order to do it multiple times, almost like, with precision, makes someone kind of an expert or a master at what they do. And it's there's no like secret that men love to brag about being masters at their craft. And so there's a saying that a key that opens many locks is a master key. And a lock that's opened by many keys is just a shitty lock. So that's kind of where that dynamic that you're talking about, where it's okay for men to kind of go about it and speak about it and sleep with many women, because it's the dynamic of where a man has to engage with a woman and get her to open up. And so that's a key opening up a lock. So if you're a man, you have one key, and that key can open up many locks, then you have a master key. Now, on the other hand, a woman is the lock. If it's any lock can come and open that.
You mean any key?
Any key can come and open that lock. Yes, thank you. Then it's considered, theoretically, like you have a lock that can just be opened by any key. It's a shitty lock. So when you look at it in that way, that lock is not really a valuable lock. It doesn't protect anything that's really of value behind it if any key can open it. And it's it sucks to look at it that way, but when you put it in that perspective, and then you're the guy who has the key that can open many locks, you're looked at as like amongst guys as a master of what you do. It takes skill to be able to get to that level. It takes practice, it takes finesse, it takes work. It takes a lot of crafting. It's not something that you just wake up and do one day. So when a guy gets to that level, it's looked at like, yo, he's got game. And of course, I would like to say that pretty much every male, he at some point wants to sleep with a female. So they have to have at least a little bit ounce of that. And to see someone else that has a ton of it, it almost creates like if you really desire it, it creates this desire to want to be like that. So then now you have this bragging amongst males about who does it better.
Yeah.
And that's how that dynamic kind of, exists within itself.
I'm really trying to wrangle my feelings right now.
I'm sure you are, because I'm sure anything that, most of what I'm saying, it's not pleasant to hear.
It's not that it's not pleasant. It's that it is. I'm really trying to like choose my words here right now.
Oh, fuck.
No, Evo, listen. Honestly, I respect you speaking freely and saying how it is that many men do think about this dynamic between man and woman. I respect that completely. But do I think the analogy that is used, that a key that can open many locks is a master key, but a lock that is opened by many keys is a shitty lock.
Would be considered a shitty lock.
Okay, would be considered. I can understand that in the premise if women were actually like, I guess maybe I'm somewhat taken back by the analogy, because what makes you think that, or what makes a man think that the keys that are opening our lock are just any key? What makes you think that because as a woman I'm engaging in casual sex just like a man would, that I'm just letting any key open my lock?
I didn't say any key. I said many keys.
Okay, fine. Many. Let's take away. Let's add an M to any.
Right.
What makes you think that like many? Like I just said, I'm having casual sex. That doesn't mean that it's many. It could just be maybe one particular person consistently. So then, even so, I feel like men will still turn around if a woman has had multiple partners, and it doesn't even have to be a lot.
Right.
She still can be labeled that way. And men will also use that term when they don't get what they want from a woman.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not. That
You're not
last
following?
part. Well, that last part, I'm not following how. When you say men don't get what they want.
So then they'll use the term that a girl's a slut against them. You've never seen that dynamic happen?
Yeah, I mean, that's just the guy being childish. You know, his ego's hurt. You know, so he's just, you know, he's like you know, what's the word I'm looking for? He's just lashing out.
Yeah, correct. I would
mean?
100% agree. But the term slut comes from a woman having sex with multiple partners.
Right. So the fact that she's not having sex with him and he's calling her a slut, it just doesn't make no sense.
Of course, but that is what I'm trying to say, is like the assumption that a man makes that I'm doing it with many or any or whatever the case is somewhat astonishing sometimes. Especially due to the fact that women don't tend to go around boasting like men do. That men are making the assumption that we're doing it with many. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I get what you're saying. But this whole, you know, idea of boasting, you know, it happens with a lot of different things. You know, it's not just with sex. So for men, yeah, they like to boast about sex. But I mean, men and women boast about things that they have that are materialistic, that if it's a one-off or a one of a kind, they have like one of very few that nobody else has. You know, most of the time they boast about it, brag about it, show it off. You know what I mean? They want to, you know, talk to their friends about, like, look at this thing that I got that nobody else got. You know, and that just happens to be what they value. For a reason that is like beyond my full understanding. Men value having sex with a woman that hasn't had sex with many other men. And so when they're able to have that, you know, they're going to brag about it. And if they have something like a lot of men at some point in their life may find it challenging to have sex, to achieve it, to get it. Where another man is, you know, he's at a point in his life where he's able to get it rather easily.
I think it's interesting that you say that you don't understand the reason why men find it valuable to have sex with a woman that hasn't had many partners or partners. It's built into the fabric of society.
I understand
that virginity of a girl is considered valuable. That was something that was provided as a transactional thing when a man and a woman would come together. That was something that a family could offer their daughter to a man and say, she's a virgin, she's never been with anybody, so now she belongs to you. That is why men, I believe, value that kind of shit, because they think that a woman's virginity or their body count makes them more desirable. But what I find hilarious about that is if you're not looking to wife this woman and you're just looking to have casual sex with her, why does it matter?
Well, I don't feel like that a body count really matters to a guy who's just looking to have casual sex with a woman.
But you just said that men value a girl who has potentially been with less partners. So then a guy's going to turn around and say, okay, I've been with this girl, I took her virginity. That's bragging rights for him.
Yes, no, I understand that. But what I'm saying is that you're talking about as far as casual sex goes. So if a guy's going to have casual sex with a girl, I don't really think he's looking to find out how many partners she had. You know, like if he's in like, but if he's looking to brag about, you know, and boast about being with a girl, yeah, potentially being her first. It's something that he might do, because it's something that others won't be able to have. That's just the one thing he can have. It's like, you know, that one-off of thing that I possess this now. It's mine, and you know, and you know, all of you fucking, you know, praise me for having it, you know, or you know, they want that validation, you know, as something
that's what it is.
Yeah, they want that validation of an achievement that they have. And, you know, a lot of people, not just men and not just for sex, need other people's validations to acknowledge their successes. And I think that has a lot to do with that. But for casual sex, I think that body count really is not a big deal because you're just looking to have sex. Now, if it's something, if it's not for men, I believe it's if it's someone that they're looking to be with, that they're looking to call theirs, you know, that's my partner. To some men, a body count is an issue. Excuse me. I love these headphones, by the way.
Great. I just find it so interesting. I always find this dynamic so interesting. I just feel like this dynamic can be spoken about forever. Like the back and forth.
Definitely go back and forth.
Yeah, the back and forth that could happen, that can occur from this conversation is definitely something that I feel like it's like a chess game. I feel like I make a move, you make a move, and we can go back and forth. And that's something that I really enjoy about these conversations that we have, because I'm a woman and you're a man, and we're obviously going to have totally different perspectives on the way things are seen. But I will say that, you know, when you have this dynamic of men being from a young age taught that, you know, it's cool to have multiple partners or have multiple women, but women are told the complete opposite, it's going to further continue this divide between men and women and like equality. Because then if you are meant to then partner with a woman or a man later on in your life, men, I still think, are going to have this like false pretense that a woman is like almost like a property to him. Yeah, and that a woman doesn't really possess value unless she has less partners.
But you have to understand, you know, when men and boys have this insatiable desire to have sex, right? And it's something that they need to achieve. Like if a man can have that in excess, like I think anybody who has achieved for something, you know, they will try to get as much as they can of it.
Yeah.
You know, if you like working out, you know, it makes you feel good. You're going to work out as much as you can, as humanly possible, right? And the results are going to show in your body, and other people are going to, maybe that they like to achieve that, are going to admire you for it. You might start taking pictures and boast about it online.
I understand.
You know what I mean? So because sex is something that men desire to achieve, when they have it in excess, this kind of the same thing plays out where they were boasting about it. They're showing it off. It's something that, you know, you desire. I know you desire. I got tons of it. You know what I'm saying? Look at me, you know, like, and it's just that whole look at me shit, you know, like if you're the type of person that doesn't need validation from other people so that you know your successes, then you can be that type of person where you're finesse and you're suave and you sleep, you know, with many women and you won't say a word about it. There are people like that, you know, where they live that life, but nobody knows about it because they don't need other people to validate that their accomplishments. They can look in the mirror very well and say, you that motherfucking man, you know, like you good job. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they don't, and that's the thing. You know, it really the whole problem with this is that people needing other people to validate their accomplishments.
Yeah, I firmly, I
Yeah,
3000% agree with that.
I genuinely believe that if you were to remove that from the equation, you would have no boasting. People
Yeah.
would just be accomplishing shit.
Well, I think if you remove sexual shaming on women, that wouldn't be part of the equation either. I think sexual desire should be, more equally taught in the sense
Yeah.
of a woman can have casual sex just like a man,
Yeah.
and there should be no shame placed on a woman. The one thing I will say though, the conversation about having sex for women should be somewhat different in the sense of a woman should be taught to protect her reproductive organs and protect herself from unwanted pregnancies, because we live in a world right now where we are not on the forefront of man birth control or male birth control, so women still have the full responsibility of unwanted pregnancies. So there's a part of that conversation that should be very different when it's directed towards a young girl. So I'm not going to act like that shouldn't be part of it. A girl takes on full responsibility in the sense of whether she chooses to have the child or she chooses to have an abortion. That's still fully 100% on her. So I do think that young women should be taught to understand that protect yourself at all costs does not mean that you cannot have casual sex. And I'm speaking from experience. I had 2 children when I was very young, and I was not taught how to fully protect myself. And even though I still was having protected sex, I still ended up pregnant.
Yeah.
Because I was not given the education from people or women within my circle or my family to say, hey, you can be empowered to have casual sex. You can be everything you want to be, but here are like the sure proof ways to protect yourself from having an unwanted pregnancy, because that could really fucking derail your life in a way where your responsibility goes from one to multiple.
Yeah. I think that, honestly, maybe there's something to say to that, where women are shamed for having multiple partners because the risk is so much higher for them, and they're taking that risk just for sex, and so it almost makes them look irresponsible per se, that they're not being more selective and cautious about those type of decisions because there is so much at risk for them. I can see why men are potentially not looked in that way, because they're they
don't carry that responsibility.
They engage in this act that doesn't really carry a lot of risk for them. You know what I mean? So and it shouldn't be like that where women are shamed, but it's like it's a double-edged sword, because people are going to look at it in one way like, yo, let her be free, let her do what she wants, let her make her own decisions, and other people will be like, that's reckless, you know what I mean? Like, this is how, people, we have all these unwanted babies and like, and so like it's something that, it could be, this thing could be argued until we turn blue in the face, but I think that the big portion of that is the risk that's being taken,
I will tell you, as a mother with a daughter, I'm going to have the only conversation with her when she starts to reach the age where experiencing sex on different levels will potentially start to occur in her life. I want to empower my daughter to understand that she has control of her own body, and that the choices that she makes with her body can affect her in ways that can be life-changing for her.
Yes.
So protect that shit at all costs.
Absolutely.
But that does not mean that you still can't be free to have the sexual partners that you want, but still protect yourself. And this is a conversation that I've had with our boys.
Now, do you believe that women, girls, females, that they should have the ability to express themselves and have partners as they please.
Mm-hmm.
But do you feel like that they should express it as much as men do? And when I say express it as much as men do, is have as many sexual partners as men desire to have. Because I feel like men will easily, without blinking a bat of an eye, have more partners than they can even count, and even stop counting at some point, only because of the lack of risk that there is. Do you feel like that it should be equal, and that a girl should be able to take as much of those opportunities as males do? Or would you find that at some point really being slightly irresponsible, and that the decisions, although they should be able to be made freely, that they should still be made in a way where they're lessening the chances of something, going south for them?
That's a fully loaded question. I'm gonna dissect that a little bit. So one of the words that jumped out at me when you said that was equal. That should women seek it equally as men do, or should they obtain it equally as men do? I don't think that I'm looking at it in the terms of women seeking or obtaining sex equally. I think they should seek it as much as they desire. I will say that I think that women still should, at the forefront of their desires, remember that we carry a responsibility that men do not. And I'm not saying that men should not care. Like, men are responsible to care, are hopefully responsible to care for their children if in fact that does happen. But I'm just talking about the pregnancy.
Yeah.
And what I mean is, if you choose to have an abortion, or if you choose to carry out that pregnancy, you are the one carrying out that pregnancy.
Yeah.
So I think a woman's desire should be respected. I'm not looking for equality as far as I'm not looking for those things to be equal, because I do think that as man and woman, we have different mental directions when it comes
absolutely.
to what we desire. And you and I have talked about it in the past, that women are intrigued differently when it comes to sex. There are ways that we are kind of turned on.
Yeah.
So I don't think we are programmed the same in that factor. So I think that their desire should be respected, but they should still protect themselves. And again, like I said, I speak from experience. I speak from being a young woman that did not receive that information.
Right.
And I then had to fucking learn the hard way that having sex and not fully protecting yourself, and what I mean is birth control and condoms, is really the only way that you can ensure that you won't get pregnant.
Yeah.
I mean, because if one fails, God, at least you have the other one. But if you're only doing one and one fails, then you're fucked. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's interesting that we're talking about like things that you should be doing prior to sex, like protecting yourself. Because our top 5 for tonight is top 5 questions to ask before taking off the condom, ladies and gentlemen.
And I thought this was an interesting top 5, because I don't really feel like that people even think about a list of questions that they ask or should put out on the table before deciding to take off the condom.
Evil, but this is why I was saying I wonder, or I wish rather, that there was this type of information available that was coming from the male and female perspective, because you and I collectively thought about these things. And again, this shit is going to happen in a perfect world, because when lust takes its place, sometimes all this shit, and we know this for a fact, goes right out the fucking window. This shit goes out the window. But I think if this is practiced, it is a skill that can be continuously used.
Yeah, well,
because it's something that, again, like I said, once I learned the hard way, all of these things became part of like my little questionnaire when I was engaging in potential unprotected sex.
Yeah, a lot of people like to play now and pay later. So this is a guide, a 5-question step guide, so that you do not fall into the play now and pay later.
You know what that reminds me of? Remember Chili Willy?
Yes.
Okay,
I do.
when he be like, you give me $2 today, I buy cheeseburger, I pay you tomorrow. Isn't that
No, that's from Popeyes. That's
Popeyes.
yes. It was he would there was a guy on there. He would always want cheeseburgers, and he would say,
Yes, you're
I'd
right.
gladly pay you on Tuesday for a
Yeah,
cheeseburger
today.
today."
Yeah. That's what I meant. I'm sorry. Chili Willy said something like that, though. I don't know. And somebody chime in and let me know. But let's get into the top
Yes.
5 for tonight. Because I love that you said that these are like
Yeah.
going to be like potentially a good reference for someone
Yes.
to look
Let
back
this
on.
be the unofficial official guide of the 5 questions that you should be asking before taking off the condoms in a friends with benefits relationship, a casual type of sexual relationship, or even a relationship that is turning serious and you're deciding to take things to the next level and want to eliminate the condom.
Oh, one of my new favorites is situationship.
Situationships, yes.
Yeah, and this top 5 actually comes from our comment genre.
A lot of situationships going on.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
and
sure.
a lot of people taking off the rubber and playing now and paying later.
Absolutely.
All right, get into it, Evo.
All right, so coming in at number 5 is having sex with other people.
I think what you're saying is that you're going to ask the question if this person is having sex with other people.
Yes, you are. You are gonna. I'm sorry. I just need to. Okay. Yes, you are going to ask the question if they're having sex with other people.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is a very important question to ask. But again, when things are hot and heavy, and you know, hormones are flying, and passion is through the roof. You just kind of want to like skip past the whole awkwardness. People just they take the condom off and they go right into it, and then these are like questions that kind of maybe come up later. So definitely pre-plan and try to have a very mature conversation. Or like, are you sleeping with other people?
Or do you or is that like potentially your intention? Like,
Yeah.
do you intend to have sex with me unprotected,
Right.
and then potentially go out and have sex unprotected with other people?
Right.
I do know that this question may be hard to ask during the heat of the moment, but then maybe that heat of the moment needs to be paused.
Absolutely. Pump the brakes.
And this goes back to me saying, ladies, protect your organs at all costs.
Yeah.
Because I know for damn sure that one sexual encounter could really fuck you for a lifetime.
Yeah.
So what's more important, asking me an uncomfortable question or dealing with an uncomfortable situation for a very long time?
I mean, I don't know about you guys out there, but I mean, as far as for me personally speaking, in a situation where the condom, potentially was talking about coming off or came off, that shit was the equivalent of reaching up and fucking pulling that little red cable on a fucking speeding train. Like everything just came to a halt. Hold
Yeah.
up. Like, what are we doing here? Like,
Yeah.
what's going on? This is some other shit. Like, this is not how the script was supposed to go. Let's turn the page back a couple chapters, and let's read through this shit thoroughly. Like, where's the fine print? Like, what are we, what's going on here? That's just the way that I always was. But not being that way will definitely get you into some sticky situations. No pun intended.
I think fuck. I did say to you previously that when a man has attempted to have sex with me in the past without a condom, and it's something that we haven't discussed,
yeah,
that shit
it's
is
over.
That shit is an immediate no
It's
for me.
over. You got me fucked up.
Yeah, because in my mind, I immediately go to, if he has attempted this with me without a prior conversation, and is just attempting to do it in the heat of the moment without my consent,
yeah,
that means he has attempted this with other women and potentially maybe even other men, and you are looking to potentially place your penis into my vagina and place me at risk for something that I didn't fucking sign up for. I'm actually gonna put my clothes on and walk right out the fucking door. Goodbye.
Shit is above your pay grade, pal. Fuck out of here.
See you later.
Okay, so coming in at number 4 of top 5 questions you should ask before taking off the condom is, are you looking to be sexually monogamous?
Yeah.
With the person that you're having sex with? Yeah, great question.
I just think that question rolls right off of the other one.
Yeah, it definitely does. Like it's very important to know. I mean, because having that conversation and being clear about, are we going to be exclusive with each other, really sets a level of comfort, between two people, that if you do decide that you're going to take things to the next level and stop using condoms, but still practice safe sex in a way where you're not getting pregnant, being monogamous is very helpful to things not getting complicated.
I would hope, though, too, that people would understand that if you say to the other person, yeah, this is what I'm looking to do, I'm looking to be sexually monogamous with you, the level of trust that will put between two people, the sexual shit that you two can experience together is like, it's the ultimate. Because I mean, real talk, like, the best sex I've ever had is long term.
Yes.
When my partner, speaking in direction of my husband, and I have this like level of like trust and connection with each other, it's almost like what is that thing that people do, like the fall thing, the what is it called?
I know what you're talking about. I don't know the name of it.
Okay, but it's basically like when you fall and people catch you.
And you fully trust.
Yeah, you trust. I don't know what it's called, but you know what it is that I'm trying to say. That is how I feel with you, that there is this level of trust that, like, no matter what I do, no matter what I say, as long as it's not like, something that maybe we never talked about, and I'm just like, hey, by the way, this, no. It is such a fucking beautiful thing because you are so free to be yourself.
Right.
But when you have to when you're potentially laying in the bed with someone, and in the back of your mind you're like, oh, did this guy fuck Sally yesterday?
Yeah.
Yo, that's not really opening the door.
It definitely
for
changes the mood a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. Things might not feel the same if they're thinking about somebody else in the back of your head. But I think the whole the whole premise around falling and having other people catch you is you have to fully let go.
Yeah.
You have to let your guard down. You have to let your defenses down. You have to let your fear go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And totally trust the people whose arms you're falling into.
Yeah.
So you're technically falling into the arms of your partner, and being able to trust them in a way where they are acting in a way where they're being responsible with your trust.
Yeah.
Creates this energy and bond between two people that is, words can't even describe it. I can't put words to it, because it's just a feeling that you can only feel when you put those two chemistries together.
Yeah. And I'm still going to say this, ladies, protect your shit at all costs, because even though when you have this conversation, let's keep it real. You haven't heard of men getting women pregnant in the same fucking year?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing that I don't.
Women, we get pregnant. We can't get pregnant twice in 1 year, but a man can get multiple women pregnant in a year. So, ladies, even if you still choose to take off this condom with this young man, please still protect yourself. Unless you two are, going down that road with each other, where you are, deciding to do, what, maybe wanting a family. But if you haven't had that conversation, and we're gonna get into that, protect yourself. And as a young woman, I can tell you that even when I didn't have direct access to healthcare, I found ways to get free birth control, or birth control at a minimal cost. And I know that it is not something that is spoken to about in all households, but you heard it from me. Protect your shit, and because I do know, as a woman, things hit different for us. Okay? They just fucking hit different from us, like we can't like detach a baby from our womb and then walk away and then just be like, yeah, I'll figure that out later. No, but a man can walk away. So, if you decided on sexual monogamy, still protect yourself. Let's get into number 3.
Okay, so coming in at number 3 of the top 5 questions that you should ask before taking off a condom is STD status. Very important question. Not a conversation that a lot of people have, but still a very important question. You know why? Why don't people have these conversations? Why? Because it's probably a fucking mood killer.
Yeah, I
You
don't
know?
care.
No, I understand that you don't care, and nobody should care. I don't give a fuck. What's more of a mood killer? Killer, me not being able to have sex with you, or me finding out that I contracted an STD after not asking a question. So it is very important. I mean, I want to honestly say that. You know what? I'm not gonna go there. But what I was going to say, and I'm not gonna say it, but I'm gonna say that I was gonna say it, but I really thought that it wasn't. I would like to think that a large percentage of sexually transmitted diseases happen because of the lack of this conversation.
Oh yeah, for fucking sure.
I just didn't know the statistics behind it, so I didn't want to go out there and just say it. But it's a pure opinion of mine. But I can see how that would be, a huge problem.
I mean, well,
in the transmission of STDs is not having this conversation. Even going as far as, okay, you're telling me that you don't have any STDs, but before we have unprotected sex, like, we need to test ourselves.
Yeah.
Which is very important. And again, doing that, taking those extra steps, going through that with someone where you both, demonstrate to each other that you are in a safe space in each other's arms, really, like, amplifies the sexual experience beyond what it would be had you not had that conversation. Have a conversation. Like, I can only imagine the thoughts that happen in a person's head when they decide to have unprotected sex with someone based off of lust and passion, and doesn't even know if that person, their STD status.
Yeah.
The fuckery that goes on in a person's head afterwards. I can't imagine, like, how that fucks with you.
I can tell you, as a woman, I've had experiences where I've been sexually intimate with a partner that we were sexually monogamous, and then a couple days later something weird happens to me. And when I tell you, it is the most fucking like jolting thing, where something looks or feels or smells abnormal and your immediate mind goes to, this motherfucker gave me a STD.
And what if you're a hypochondriac? Like, what?
Well, I mean, listen, I'm not going to dive into that, but I can speak from being a woman that, there have been times in my life where I thought that an STD is what was happening to me, and it was something totally different. And that's why I'm a big advocate against women not wearing always pads, because I had a situation with that, and my GYN was like, those things are the devil. Don't ever wear those things again. That's why you're going through what you're going through right now. And that's why I say that women, we should protect our reproductive organs, because we are so much more susceptible to things than a man is, and that is just straight fucking fact. So I've had this situation, and this question comes from me. I'm the one where, after I learned the hard way, I then said to myself, oh, we gonna take off this condom? When was the last time you got tested? Oh, you don't remember? Well, guess what? This is free clinic down the street. Why don't we go together?
Yeah, we're going to put a pin in this. We're going to circle back around to it. Let's find out what the real deal is.
Yeah.
And then we'll continue this later.
And you and I also talked about it, where, getting tested for STDs is something that is spoken about more with young women, because from a young age, if you are actively going to the GYN, it becomes part of, like, your yearly regimen. You're going in there, you're getting pap smears, they're asking you if you want to take STD tests, or if you had children previously, that's part of it. So, like, it almost becomes part of the conversation for women. And just a man entering into a woman's vagina can throw off her pH and then give her, something that is not an STD. It's more of just like I'm trying
chemical imbalance.
Yeah, I get like it's more bacterial, because like, we have good bacteria, so, like, it's these type of things can happen to a woman. So it's really, like, it's a good thing to know these things. And I also feel like, if you were, as a young woman, felt empowered to ask this question to a man and he gives you pushback, bro, that's a red flag. Keep that shit pushing. And you have just excuse me, spit just came out of my mouth, because, like, I get fired up about this. You have just, dodged a bullet.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And especially if you're not on birth control.
Hell no.
Yeah.
Hell no.
Rolling right in to the next one. Coming in at number 2. Top 5 questions you should be asking before taking off the condom. is, are you on birth control?
Yeah. And it sucks that that question is only directed towards the woman, because if the top 5 is once you decide to remove the condom, which means that you want to have that skin to skin contact with that person, the responsibility of protecting against unwanted pregnancies falls fully on the woman.
But there is something that's come up.
Yeah, but we're going to talk about that at another time, because Evo brought this up, and
I feel like this is a good time.
No.
All right.
Evo brought this up, but what I will tell you is that potentially there's technology out there that it could put men in the ability to,
where if this question comes up, it's a two-way street.
It could be a two-way street.
Yeah,
but I actually think I want to talk about that
We'll circle back around to that.
I want to build that into another conversation, because I also feel like that's something that you and I could go back and forth on quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I just want to stay focused on this. And ladies, if you're choosing to have unprotected sex with a man, please protect yourself with birth control, and take the time to find the birth control that is best suited for you, because I can speak from experience. When you go to your doctor or a clinic, because I've done both, sometimes you're just given, kind of what everybody's using, and that may not be the best option for you. And this is what I say about protecting yourself. Give your body something that is going to work for you the right way. And sometimes it may take more than one experience to understand what that is. So until you reach that point, don't take that condom off.
Not a one size fits all type of situation.
Yeah, for real. I think it actually took me 3 tries to figure out what was the best birth control suited for me. That didn't give me like raging fucking side effects.
Yeah.
Where I finally felt like, okay, I can take this and I can, have sexual experience with my partner and not feel like a demon at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, listen, it's this basically goes for almost anything that you're going to decide to consume. I mean, I like to think that some people, in most cases, or maybe not in most cases, but in certain cases in their life, they've really thoroughly investigated something that they had some concerns about, that they were potentially going to ingest.
Yeah.
Okay. Keep that same energy when it comes to taking off the condom.
And I always find it so interesting when people they're squeamish about these type of conversations or these type of questions. You're afraid to ask these questions, then you shouldn't be letting this person raw dog you.
For real.
I mean, that is just fucking fact. And again, I speak from experience. I speak from being in situations in my life where a man has attempted that, and I'm just like, yeah, that's not gonna happen. And it immediately set the man off in the other direction, and me just being like, and again, like I said, I had kids at a young age, and this was with somebody that I was with for quite some time, even though I was young. So I understand how things can get very sticky, but I learned from that, never put myself in a position where I can't say something and feel empowered to do it. So I want women to feel empowered. And if a man is to ask you, hey, are you on birth control? Because, if we're going to make this decision, I want to make sure that, we are avoiding question number 1.
Okay, so coming in at number 1, top 5 questions you should ask before taking off the condom is, what do we do in the event of a pregnancy or an unplanned pregnancy? An unplanned pregnancy. I twisted that up.
Yeah, listen, I was fucked up before saying unprotected sex.
I don't even know what you were saying, but you couldn't get it out right. I'm glad you finally got it together.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. So, I think this really pretty much is self-explanatory. It's very important to have the conversation. Hey, listen, we're going to take, if we're going to venture into this new chapter of our relationship, or our friends with benefits relationship, or our situationship,
it's still a relationship of some sort.
Some sort of relationship. We're going to, turn the page into this new chapter. On the first page of that chapter, it should say what to do in the event of an unplanned pregnancy.
Yeah.
I mean, in big, bold fucking letters. It should really caps and all that shit with exclamation points.
Because we don't live in the world anymore where if a woman accidentally got pregnant, a man is going to marry her and take care of a kid. We live in the world now where a guy is like, yeah, so I don't even think that's mine. So I'll see you later,
Yeah.
bitch.
So do not skip this question. That is why it is number one. Because in the event that something does happen, you want to make sure that you know the devil that you're dancing with.
Yeah.
You want to know that, all right, I had a conversation with this person. They told me they didn't want kids to begin with. I still proceeded to go forward with it. So now I know that I won't, that's the last, that's actually the last, I'm saying this right. That is the one time you don't want to be surprised
Yeah.
by your partner's actions.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You want to be crystal clear, knowing going into that, all right, this is already a surprise. Now I'm even more surprised to know this motherfucker's true feelings.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
that's like a fucking, like, what's that? Double whammy.
yeah, it's a double whammy. So very important. Like, top of your list, prioritize. If you're gonna ask any question, I mean, it should be that one, and all the rest definitely should follow. But that should be like top of top. Because let's just say the person says, hey, listen, yeah, I'm good with kids. Like, I mean, hey, listen, if it happens, I'm gonna, I'm okay with being responsible. I know what I'm doing. Then going into that, like, if something does happen, there's a bit of relief there to know that.
Yeah, you're not fucked.
Yeah, I mean, or even if you are fucked, at least you knew you were fucked going into it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
listen, and you and I talked about this. I think it's a man's right to say,
yeah, absolutely.
I'm not ready for a child.
Not ready for a child.
I'm looking to have casual sex with you, but I'm not ready to be a father. That's not something that I'm looking to do right now. I believe that is a man's choice. But then it is within the woman to say, okay, I'm still looking to engage with you without protection.
Yeah.
But I still will be on birth control. But, we do know that there is a small percentage of birth control, especially if you're not taking it correctly, ladies, that you can still end up pregnant. And there's so many different forms of birth control. There's fucking IUDs. These, there's ways where things are not lined up correctly and you could still end up pregnant. So there still is that chance. So have that conversation. If this does potentially happen, where are we in that thing? And if a man says, I don't want that, then maybe the condom shouldn't be taken off.
Yeah. Or listen.
But if he says, yeah, listen, I'm okay with that, then if that is what does potentially happen, then I'm gonna take care of my responsibility. And and again, this is all in a fucking perfect world, but like, this is what I said is I feel like this is a skill. This is something that if you teach to young men and to young women, they'll be able to be better about having these type of conversations.
Absolutely.
So that actually brings us to the end of our show.
Yes,
even though I feel like I can continue talking about this, there are times you and I have conversations where I'm like, fucking the show, just keep going.
Yeah, let it go for another 20-30 minutes. Fuck it.
But I really enjoyed having this conversation with you. Like I said earlier, I always respect, your ability to speak freely.
Thank you.
And until next time.
Peace out.